This is a book review of Doctor Strange, the Omnibus edition. This is quite a thin omnibus. You can see the comics at the back. Now, clearly, it is not all of Doctor Strange. This is volume 1. So far, there's no volume 2. I would love to see a volume 2 come out. But this includes all of the Steve Ditko. It goes all the way up through to the Steve Ditko. And this is an absolutely brilliant collection. Now, of course, this has been collected in numerous different forms. There's epic collections, there's essential editions, and probably many more. So this is volume 1. Collects Strange Tales number 110 to 111, 114 to 146, as well as the Spider-Man annual number 2. Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. This came out in 2017, and it's a brilliant, brilliant collection. Love this. And it's a fairly thinnish one. Approximately about 430 odd pages of brilliant Steve Ditko work. Got the obviously contents. Also got a lovely intro and another intro by Stan Lee. And then we're on to the Doctor Strange, Master of Black Magic. Now this is probably one of the weirdest stories, weirdest start stories. Completely different. And of course it's in Strange Tales. So you've got the other story was Wizard and Paste Pot Pete. That was against the Human Torch. Doctor Strange was a backup story. And it's just brilliant. First on a new series based upon a different kind of superhero. This is present quietly and without fanfare. And that's true because they didn't put the origin. They just turned around and said, oh, must call Doctor Strange out. And you end up finding, of course, about the Ancient One. And it's a very short story. Next issue, explore the mystic world of black magic once again with Doctor Strange. Now this was pretty what's-the-name stuff back in, I think. Obviously, you got Nightmare. We'll probably push. I'm certain that would be interesting to see what the Comic Code thought of. Obviously, they approved by the Comic Code, but it's sort of black magic and all that sort of stuff. But still, just brilliant work from Ditko and Lee. And always with these things. Actually, this one's quite odd in the sense. It's got story by Stan Lee, art by Steve Ditko, lettering. Sometimes we don't always mention lettering. Lettering seems to be a thing, I think, which is sad because I think lettering is very important. Really good lettering can make such a difference. You can't read it, it's a struggle. This one's obviously Strange Tales with Asbestos Man for the Human Torch. And you've got Mordo. Mordo! You're to meet Doctor Strange arch foe, the dreaded Mordo. Clearly, they've obviously had a bit of a run-in before, Mordo. He's not a friendly guy. And then there's a bit of a gap for some weird reason. Issue 112, 113 didn't have. Maybe they were waiting for the figures, see if it was a success or not. Then they brought in Mordo again, the return of the omnipotent Baron Mordo. Again, lettered by S. Rosen this time. But then, finally, we get the origin. In an answer to an avalanche of requests, we present the origin of Doctor Strange. Yeah, they did 3 published stories of Doctor Strange already under our belt. And it's just great origin. Well, obviously he goes to the Ancient One, gets, because after his injury, it's just a real good story. And I love Doctor Strange. I've enjoyed Doctor Strange all the way through his career. Many different forms, many different storylines. Then you got Return to the Nightmare World, which is really odd. Doesn't really give me a nightmare world when you got it in like different colouring for the word nightmare. Very odd. Another supernatural sensation presented by Mighty Marvel Group. And then you got Mordo again. There was a bit of a sort of Mordo, Nightmare, Mordo, but then we get a brilliant Possessed. But the artwork, the restoration in this book is just superb. Beyond the Purple Veil. So we learn more and more all the time. Obviously the powers, also the different dimensions, the different issues that are around. You got this, and there's a few stories that are very, very similar. Houses that are haunted, etc. Mordo again, Witchcraft in the Wax Museum. Great story. The World Beyond, Nightmare again. There was a consistency here. But then Loki turns up. Now this was a classic. The Challenge of Loki. And this one is actually inked by George Bell. You can really tell the difference. You got the stories earlier a certain style, then you suddenly see this. It's very different, drawn in a somewhat different Ditko style. I'm sceptical about that. Drawn in different Ditko. I imagine it was drawn in the normal style, but then of course it was inked by George Bell, so it just changes it. That's my humble opinion on that one. And you've got the great Loki story. It is odd to see a Ditko, of course, like this. And again, you've got the same thing you've got here. Well, this one actually looks more like the standard Ditko style. The Lady from Nowhere. George Bell again with Ditko. And you just got great. And then, of course, we get into the Dormammu storylines in clear. One thing I love about omnibus editions, you've always got the brilliant strange males. I love it. And also the checklist. I wish they would put checklists in all these books. I just love checklists. Dilemma of the Deep, and so on and so on. So it's just great story after great story, illustrated by the Sultan of the Supernatural, going Mordo and Dormammu, etc. Dormammu, Mordo. There's a lot of stories but it was just an epic. I remember at the time, because of course this was in a magazine with Human Torch. You had the Doctor Strange story. So you only had like 8 or 9 pages. And so the story was spread over many, many months. So it's great when you read them in this sort of omnibus edition, you can read them all in order, in a row. That's always been a criticism I have, or problem I always find with comic collecting, of course, because you often find one comic and then you find another comic, but you don't get them in order. So if you want to read the stories in order, you have to get them all in a row. So these books are brilliant for this. Omnibus editions are just, and of course they're bigger than the original. Now, of course, by this time we ended up with poor old Human Torch had gone and S.H.I.E.L.D. was in. And again, you still got great Dormammu. There's a lot of the stories in this middle bit, Dormammu. And of course, things don't go well for Doctor Strange once he gets back from Dormammu's dimension. And we learn more and more and more. I think even Eternity turns up. Eternity, one of the powers in the universe. Well, he is the universe. Though I must admit, sometimes that gets a bit confusing. Sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't. I don't know what he is. I assume he is the embodiment of the universe. But hey, the Infinity Gauntlet, surely is he an embodiment of, it's too confusing. You've got the excellent Spider-Man, the Doctor Strange in the annual. And that was a good one because it was nice to be able to have, obviously, 2 Ditko characters together. The Amazing Spider-Man #2. And then once you go on through that, and then of course that's that. You've got a little bit of extras, not a vast amount. You've got some, obviously, an afterword, I should say. It could easily be forward as well. And then you've got some pin-ups. Also, you've got lots of the different Marvel Tales, Strange Tales, all the ones that had reprints of Doctor Strange, and lots of Doctor Strange Classic by Stan Lee. And this is just a beautiful volume. This is just, even though it's a fairly small volume compared to normal omnibuses, I think it's just a brilliant, brilliant book. Totally recommended.